The building process for Crystal Flux is about halfway done, so I figured I'd give you all a little tour of what it's looking like. But before we start, go check out my video on the layout if you haven't already. Okay, now it's time to see the decoration. We'll start with the first part because it's the first part. The transition in was the first thing I built. It's pretty simple, but it gets the job done. Really quickly, you can see that this is a laboratory of some sorts, studying the crystal or something. These monitors in the background give you some useful info, like the status of the crystal and the power level of the facility. And also the person who made the part, we can't forget that. The background was inspired by the first part of Crystal Corridor by Knots, a level that's actually copying Crystal Flux and not the other way around. The block design is a lot different, however. This one instead takes some inspiration from Jam Attack's part in Machinal 2. And by some inspiration, I mean basically stolen. However, we do have some original designs in there. Most notably these electricity symbols in the pillars that are only there because it was too bland without them. But we also have this screen right here that flashes 3 images: my logo, Miko Meg's logo, and a Wubbaduck. By the way, we decided to hide a Wubbaduck in every part of this level, so keep an eye out when you eventually play this. Anyways, these jump indicators are heavily inspired by the ones in this part of Kara Space. Okay, something other than the block design. This middle ground is pretty cool. This one is also pretty original, but it's definitely looking like elongated teleporters from Teleportation, which is another video on my channel you should check out. In case you can't tell, I like shamelessly plugging my videos in my other videos. Anyways, we're almost done with the first part. I sure do hope nothing bad happens to the laboratory. Uh-oh. So yeah, this transition is pretty cool. We have these 2 impact frames that I've done in some of my previous levels, and all of a sudden, the glass containing the crystal has a giant crack in it. The facility starts losing power, and then you get sucked into the crystal, I guess. Anyways, that's the first part. And before we move into the second part, I just wanted to say that since this is a collab with Miko Megs, I didn't build this part and will only be covering it briefly. Miko Megs did say he was going to eventually make a video discussing his part, so you can check that out for a more in-depth explanation, if he ever does make that video. Okay, now we're actually in the second part. We have this mountain background that Miko Megs keeps making. It's an actual unhealthy addiction for him. When I told him that a crystal dimension would be cool, I was expecting something similar to the second part of Crystal Corridor. Again, Knots is totally copying us. But I guess this also works. We have cool pillars in the middle ground, love to see those, and also some crystals growing out the side of them. The block design is also pretty cool, and this liquid thing helps tie them into the crystal theme. And also some club set monsters, because he's in that phase. We have this jittering effect because the song is the most energetic, goofy song ever, but best of all, the orb deco. Oh my god, is this orb deco beautiful. I don't know how Miko Megs made it this good, but he made it this good. Another thing that's really good is oh, we're already at the transition. Yes, I made this, and yes, it took me 3 hours, so you will appreciate it. I don't know if you got the cue, but this is the end of the second part, and we're about to discuss the third part. But first, I just wanted to say, this part doesn't have a Wubbaduck in it as of the current moment because Miko Megs forgot it. It will be there in the final version, but it isn't right now. With all that out of the way, now we can actually discuss the third part. I didn't finish the transition on the other side because it takes way too long to set up and it already looks good enough. Right off the bat, we have these cool wooden blocks that I made mostly original. Mostly. We do get to witness the return of the jittering effect, but we also get to see an entirely new effect that I like to call rotation. Such a cool name, I know. It's a bit hard to see on the wooden backing blocks, but it's a lot more noticeable in the stone bits. But it's not entirely wooden support beams. We also have these stone slabs. In case you haven't caught on already, this part is a combination of the workshop and the tunnel from the cellar path by Jam Attack. The stone slabs have engravings on them because it helps fill them in with more decoration. I used the rock outline to make these look carved out, and I think they look really good. Also, one of the slabs has a picture of an enchanting table, and there's a reason as to why. Those symbols that float around it are actually real letters from standard galactic English. Also, I spent like 30 minutes making this room, so you will appreciate it. Anyways, I used SGE and a bunch of carvings to spell different words, and I'll put them on screen as I'm explaining. The letters next to the enchanting table don't actually say SGE, but SGA. SGA is short for Standard Galactic Alphabet, and I thought that made more sense than writing Standard Galactic English. Lots of the engravings are messages written in SGE, so I figured I should probably explain it in the video. But there's also a secret message you can find by pulling off this swag route and dying to this specific spike for the people who play the level without watching this video. Also, this carving right here says subscribe, which is something you should probably do. I upload a lot of cool content and it would really help out a ton. You don't have to, but please consider it. Sorry, what was I talking about? You know what? Let's run through the pictures really quickly. We have a crystal, that enchanting table from earlier, my logo along with some text, an arrow, this part's Wubbaduck, a skull, the YouTube logo under the subscribe text, these moon symbols, and another crystal. I wonder what this arrow is pointing to. At this point, we reach the transition. Everything starts glitching out as the player approaches a crystal that was hinted at earlier by the 2 crystal carvings. Then, the background gets sucked into a portal or something, and the next part starts, but we haven't built that yet. So yeah, that's the 3rd part. Now, before we conclude this video, I do want to say there's lots of details I had to skip over because I didn't want this video to be too long. For example, these moving ground spikes in the temple. I just wanted to say that because this is the reason the level is taking so long. And because Miko is procrastinating, but that's besides the point. It's been about 4 months since y'all have gotten a real video on Crystal Flux, and pointing hammer diamond wave VED to Miko Megs doesn't count. So, I think that y'all deserve a half showcase of what we have so far. Enjoy!